the lost city of Atlantis. A civilization vanished for over 2,400 years. The story of Atlantis, the fabled lost city of advanced civilization that vanished beneath the waves in a single day and night, has captivated the human imagination. It has inspired countless myths, legends, scientific inquiries, and works of art, transcending time and culture to become one of the most enduring mysteries of human history. Was Atlantis a real place, a flourishing civilization that fell victim to a catastrophic natural disaster? Or is it merely a philosophical allegory, a fictional tale crafted by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato to convey his ideas about power, hubris, and the fragility of human achievement? The debate rages on, with scholars, archaeologists, geologists, and conspiracy theorists offering conflicting theories and evidence, each striving to unlock the truth behind the legend. This comprehensive exploration delves into the origins of the Atlantis myth, examines the most compelling theories about its location and nature, explores the evidence for and against its existence, and traces its cultural impact throughout history, from Plato's original dialogues to modern scientific expeditions, from ancient oral traditions to contemporary pop culture. We will journey through the layers of mystery that surround the lost city of Atlantis, seeking to understand why this vanished civilization continues to fascinate us, and whether it may one day be found. To understand the legend of Atlantis, we must begin with its earliest and most authoritative source, the dialogues of Plato, written around 360 BCE. Plato, one of the most influential philosophers in Western history, first mentioned Atlantis in two of his works, Timaeus and Critias, dialogues that feature fictional conversations between Socrates, Timaeus, Critias, and Hermocrates. Unlike many of Plato's other works, which focus on abstract philosophical concepts, these dialogues weave a detailed narrative of a powerful, advanced civilization that once existed and was ultimately destroyed by divine punishment. What makes Plato's account so compelling is its specificity. He provides precise details about Atlantis's geography, government, society, and ultimate fate, leading many throughout history to believe that the story was based on a real historical event or civilization. Yet, as modern scholars have pointed out, Plato was a philosopher, not a historian, and his works often used fictional stories or myths to illustrate philosophical truths. This tension between the narrative's specificity and its philosophical purpose lies at the heart of the Atlantis mystery, and it is a tension that has fueled debate for millennia. In Timaeus, Plato introduces the story of Atlantis through Critias, who claims to have heard it from his grandfather, who in turn heard it from Solon, the famous Athenian lawgiver and poet who traveled to Egypt around 600 BCE. According to Critias, Solon learned the story from Egyptian priests at the Temple of Sais, a city in the Nile Delta known for its wisdom and ancient records. The priests told Solon that Atlantis was a powerful naval empire located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, a phrase that the ancient Greeks used to refer to the Strait of Gibraltar, the narrow waterway separating the Mediterranean Sea from the Atlantic Ocean. They described Atlantis as a large island, larger than Libya and Asia put together, with a complex geography of mountains, plains, rivers, and harbors. The island was said to be rich in natural resources, including gold, silver, precious stones, and exotic woods. And its people were skilled in agriculture, engineering, and navigation. The Atlanteans, according to the priests, built a magnificent civilization with grand cities, elaborate palaces, and advanced infrastructure, including a system of canals and waterways that connected the island's various regions. They were a powerful military force, conquering much of Europe and North Africa until they attempted to invade Athens, a city that had been founded by the gods to embody justice and virtue. In the end, the Atlanteans were defeated by the Athenians, and their hubris angered the gods, who sent a catastrophic natural disaster, earthquakes and floods, that submerged Atlantis beneath the Atlantic Ocean in a single day and night. In a moment, as Plato wrote, the island of Atlantis disappeared, swallowed up by the sea, and vanished, leaving only a muddy shoal in its place. Plato's Critias expands on this narrative, providing even more detailed descriptions of Atlantis's society and architecture. He describes the capital city of Atlantis, which was built on a series of concentric rings, 3 rings of water, and 2 rings of land, connected by canals and bridges. The outermost ring was a harbor, capable of accommodating thousands of ships, while the innermost ring contained the royal palace and the temple of Poseidon, the god of the sea and the patron of Atlantis. The temple was said to be covered in gold and silver, with a statue of Poseidon riding a chariot pulled by 6 winged horses, and walls adorned with precious stones and murals depicting the Atlanteans' history and achievements. The city was governed by a royal family descended from Poseidon, who ruled with wisdom and justice, at least in the early days of the civilization. Over time, however, the Atlanteans grew arrogant and corrupt, abandoning their virtues and focusing on power and conquest. It was this hubris, Plato explains, that led to their downfall. The gods, seeing their moral decay, decided to punish them by destroying their civilization, ensuring that their story would serve as a warning to future generations about the dangers of pride and the fragility of power. Plato's account ends abruptly in Critias, before he could finish describing the war between Atlantis and Athens, a detail that has only added to the mystery surrounding the story. From the moment Plato wrote his dialogues, the story of Atlantis has sparked curiosity and debate. In ancient Greece and Rome, some scholars accepted the story as historical fact, while others dismissed it as a philosophical allegory. For example, the Greek historian Strabo, writing in the 1st century BCE, argued that Atlantis was a fictional invention, noting that Plato often used myths to illustrate his ideas about ideal societies. The Roman philosopher Plutarch, on the other hand, believed that Atlantis was a real place, suggesting that it might have been located in the Atlantic Ocean, beyond the Pillars of Hercules. As the Roman Empire fell and Europe entered the Middle Ages, the story of Atlantis faded into obscurity, preserved only in ancient manuscripts that were rarely read or studied. It was not until the Renaissance, when interest in ancient Greek and Roman texts was rekindled, that the legend of Atlantis was revived, and it has remained a subject of fascination ever since. The Renaissance marked a turning point in the study of Atlantis, as scholars and explorers began to revisit Plato's dialogues and search for evidence of the lost city. One of the first to take the legend seriously was the 15th century Italian humanist Marsilio Ficino, who translated Plato's dialogues into Latin and argued that Atlantis was a real civilization that had been destroyed by a flood. Ficino's work inspired other Renaissance scholars, including the English philosopher Francis Bacon, who wrote New Atlantis in 1627, a utopian novel that depicted a fictional island civilization modeled after Plato's Atlantis, where science and reason flourished. Bacon's novel helped to popularize the idea of Atlantis as an advanced, utopian society, and it influenced countless later works of literature and philosophy. During this period, explorers such as Christopher Columbus and Ferdinand Magellan, who were venturing into the Atlantic Ocean for the first time, also sparked speculation about Atlantis. Some believed that the Americas might be the remains of Atlantis, while others suggested that the Caribbean islands could be fragments of the lost continent. These early speculations laid the groundwork for the countless theories about Atlantis's location that would emerge in the centuries to come. In the 19th century, the study of Atlantis took a more scientific turn as archaeologists and geologists began to search for physical evidence of the lost city. One of the most influential figures in this movement was Ignatius L. Donnelly, an American politician and amateur scholar who published Atlantis, The Antediluvian World, in 1882. Donnelly's book was a landmark work, arguing that Atlantis was a real continent located in the Atlantic Ocean, and that it was the cradle of human civilization, from which all other ancient civilizations, including those of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Americas, had descended. Donnelly based his theory on a variety of evidence, including similarities in ancient myths and legends from around the world, many of which describe a great flood that destroyed an advanced civilization, linguistic similarities between different languages, and archaeological findings that he believed could be traced back to Atlantis. For example, he noted that the pyramids of Egypt and the pyramids of Central America were remarkably similar, suggesting a common origin in Atlantis. He also argued that the ancient Greeks, Egyptians, and Maya all shared stories of a lost civilization, which he interpreted as memories of Atlantis. Donnelly's book was wildly popular selling hundreds of thousands of copies and inspiring a generation of Atlantis enthusiasts. While modern scholars have discredited many of Donnelly's claims, pointing out that his evidence was often anecdotal and his interpretations flawed his work, remains a key influence on the Atlantis myth, and it helped to establish Atlantis as a subject of serious scientific inquiry. Donnelly's work also sparked a wave of archaeological expeditions aimed at finding Atlantis. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, explorers searched the Atlantic Ocean, the Mediterranean Sea, and even the Caribbean, looking for signs of the lost city. One of the most famous of these expeditions was led by the American archaeologist William Randolph Hearst, who funded searches in the Bahamas and the Caribbean in the 1920s. Hearst's expeditions found no evidence of Atlantis, but they did uncover a number of ancient ruins, which fueled further speculation. Another notable expedition was led by the French explorer Jacques Cousteau, who conducted underwater surveys of the Atlantic Ocean in the 1960s and 1970s. Cousteau's team discovered a number of underwater structures, including a series of stone formations off the coast of Bimini in the Bahamas, which some Atlantis enthusiasts claimed were the remains of Atlantis's walls or roads. However, subsequent studies revealed that these formations were natural, formed by the erosion of limestone, a disappointment for those who had hoped to find evidence of the lost city. Despite these setbacks, the search for Atlantis continued, with each new expedition bringing new theories and new hope of discovery. Today, the debate over Atlantis's existence remains as fierce as ever, with three main schools of thought emerging. Those who believe Atlantis was a real place, the historicists. Those who believe it was a fictional allegory, the allegorists. And those who believe it was a blend of fact and fiction, the syncretists. The historicists argue that Plato's account contains too many specific details about geography, society, and architecture to be entirely fictional, and they point to a variety of archaeological, geological, and historical evidence to support their claims. The allegorists, on the other hand, argue that Plato's story was clearly intended as a philosophical metaphor, designed to illustrate his ideas about ideal societies and the dangers of hubris. They note that Plato often used fictional stories to make philosophical points, and that there is no credible evidence to support the existence of a civilization matching his description of Atlantis. The syncretists, meanwhile, suggest that while Atlantis itself may not have been a real place, Plato's story may have been inspired by real historical events or civilizations, such as the destruction of the Minoan civilization on the island of Santorini, or the flooding of the city of Healing in ancient Greece. Each of these schools of thought has its own arguments and evidence, and the debate shows no signs of being resolved anytime soon. To fully understand the debate, it is essential to examine the most compelling theories about Atlantis's location one of the key points of contention among scholars and enthusiasts. Over the centuries, dozens of locations have been proposed as the site of Atlantis, ranging from the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea, from the Caribbean to Antarctica. Each theory is based on different interpretations of Plato's description, as well as archaeological and geological evidence. Below, we explore the most prominent location theories, examining their strengths, weaknesses, and the evidence that supports or contradicts them. The most traditional and widely recognized theory is that Atlantis was located in the Atlantic Ocean, beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the Strait of Gibraltar, as Plato explicitly stated. This theory is supported by the fact that Plato's description of Atlantis as a large island in the Atlantic matches the idea of a now submerged continent. Proponents of this theory point to geological evidence that suggests the Atlantic Ocean once contained large land masses that have since been submerged. For example, the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, a massive underwater mountain range that runs down the center of the Atlantic, was formed by tectonic activity, and some geologists believe that parts of this ridge may have been above sea level in the past. Additionally, there is evidence of underwater plateaus and seamounts in the Atlantic that could have been islands or even continents. One of the most famous of these is the Azores Plateau, a large underwater plateau located in the North Atlantic, about 1,500 kilometers west of Portugal. The Azores Plateau is roughly the size of Plato's Atlantis, and some geologists believe that it was above sea level during the last ice age, around 10,000 BCE, when sea levels were much lower than they are today. If this is the case, the Azores Plateau could have been a large island that was submerged as sea levels rose at the end of the Ice Age, a scenario that matches Plato's description of Atlantis's destruction. However, there is no archaeological evidence to support the claim that the Azores Plateau was home to an advanced civilization, and most geologists argue that the plateau was never a single, continuous landmass capable of supporting a large civilization. Additionally, the Azores Plateau is composed of volcanic rock, which would have made it difficult to build the elaborate cities and infrastructure that Plato described. Another prominent theory is that Atlantis was located in the Mediterranean Sea, a location that contradicts Plato's explicit statement, but is supported by archaeological evidence of ancient civilizations that were destroyed by natural disasters. The most popular version of this theory is that Atlantis was the Minoan civilization, which flourished on the island of Crete and the surrounding islands, including Santorini, from around 2700 BCE to 1450 BCE. The Minoans were an advanced civilization, known for their elaborate palaces, sophisticated art, and advanced trade networks qualities that match Plato's description of Atlantis. In around 1600 BCE, the Minoan civilization was devastated by the catastrophic eruption of the volcano on the island of Santorini, then known as Thera. one of the largest volcanic eruptions in human history. The eruption had a volcanic explosivity index, VEI, of 7, ejecting an estimated 2841 cubic kilometers of rock and ash, and triggering massive earthquakes and tsunamis that destroyed Minoan settlements on Santorini and Crete. The eruption was so powerful that it may have caused a volcanic winter, affecting climate patterns around the world. Proponents of the Minoan theory argue that the destruction of the Minoan civilization by the Santorini eruption inspired Plato's story of Atlantis. They point to similarities between Plato's description of Atlantis and the Minoan civilization. Both were advanced naval powers. Both were located in a sea, the Mediterranean, in the Minoans' case, and both were destroyed by a catastrophic natural disaster. Additionally, the Minoan capital of Knossos, on Crete, featured elaborate palaces and a complex system of waterways similar to Plato's description of Atlantis's capital city. Some scholars also note that the ancient Egyptians, who told Solon the story of Atlantis, had extensive trade relations with the Minoans, and it is possible that stories of the Minoans' destruction were passed down to the Greeks through Egyptian records. Despite its appeal, the Minoan theory has several flaws. First, the Minoan civilization was located in the Mediterranean Sea, not the Atlantic Ocean, directly contradicting Plato's explicit statement that Atlantis was beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Second, the Minoan civilization was destroyed around 1600 BCE, while Plato placed Atlantis's destruction around 9600 BCE, over 8,000 years earlier. This massive time discrepancy is difficult to explain, though some proponents of the theory argue that Plato may have confused the date, perhaps mistaking 900 years for 9,000 years. Third, the Minoan civilization was centered on Crete, a relatively small island, far smaller than Plato's description of Atlantis, as larger than Libya and Asia put together. Finally, there is no evidence that the Minoans ever invaded Athens or conquered large parts of Europe and North Africa, key details in Plato's story. Despite these flaws, the Minoan theory remains one of the most widely accepted among scholars, as it connects the Atlantis myth to a real historical civilization and a well-documented natural disaster. It is possible that Plato took elements of the Minoan story and exaggerated them, creating a fictional civilization that served his philosophical purposes. Another popular Mediterranean theory is that Atlantis was located on the island of Cyprus, a large island in the eastern Mediterranean Sea. Proponents of this theory point to underwater ruins discovered off the coast of Cyprus, including a series of stone structures and walls that some believe are the remains of Atlantis. In 2004, a team of marine archaeologists discovered a submerged city off the southern coast of Cyprus, dating back to around 10,000 BCE, the same time period that Plato attributed to Atlantis's destruction. The city, which is located about 1.5 kilometers offshore and 12 meters underwater, features stone walls, streets, and buildings, and it is believed to have been submerged by a rise in sea levels at the end of the Ice Age. Some scholars argue that this city matches Plato's description of Atlantis, including its location. Some interpret the Pillars of Hercules as a reference to the Straits of Sicily, which would place Cyprus within the Atlantic, as the ancient Greeks understood it. However, the underwater city off Cyprus is much smaller than Plato's description of Atlantis, and there is no evidence that it was a powerful naval empire or that it had the elaborate infrastructure described by Plato. Additionally, the city's age, around 10,000 BCE, matches Plato's date for Atlantis's destruction. But there is no evidence of an advanced civilization there. The ruins suggest a small, simple settlement, not a grand city. A more controversial theory is that Atlantis was located in Antarctica. This theory, first proposed in the early 20th century by the Russian scholar Nikolai Zhirov, argues that Antarctica was once a temperate continent, home to an advanced civilization, and that it was submerged or covered in ice after a catastrophic shift in the Earth's axis. Proponents of this theory point to geological evidence that suggests Antarctica was once ice-free and had a mild climate, possibly as recently as 10,000 BCE. They also note that ancient maps, such as the Peary Rise map, created in 1513, appear to show the coast of Antarctica without ice, a detail that some argue could only have been known if the continent was once accessible to ancient civilizations. Additionally, some proponents of the theory argue that Plato's description of Atlantis as a continent larger than Libya and Asia put together matches the size of Antarctica. However, this theory has been widely discredited by mainstream scientists. Geologists have confirmed that Antarctica has been covered in ice for at least 14 million years, far longer than the time period proposed for Atlantis's existence. Additionally, the Peary Rise map's depiction of Antarctica is likely a misinterpretation. The map is a composite of various ancient maps, and the Antarctic portion is more likely a representation of South America or another landmass. There is no archaeological evidence to support the claim that Antarctica was ever home to an advanced civilization, and the theory remains a fringe idea among scholars. Other location theories include the Caribbean, specifically the Bahamas, where underwater stone formations have been found, the Black Sea, where a large area was flooded around 5600 BCE, possibly inspiring flood myths, and even the Pacific Ocean, with some suggesting that the Polynesian islands are fragments of Atlantis. Each of these theories has its own supporters and detractors, but none have been able to provide conclusive evidence to prove that Atlantis was located in their proposed location. The lack of definitive evidence has led many scholars to conclude that Atlantis never existed as a real place, and that Plato's story was purely a philosophical allegory. Allegorist perspective which argues that Atlantis was a fictional invention by Plato, is supported by a variety of evidence. First and foremost, Plato was a philosopher, not a historian, and his works are filled with fictional stories and myths that are used to illustrate his philosophical ideas. For example, in the Republic, Plato uses the allegory of the cave to explain his theory of forms, and in Phaedo, he uses the story of the soul's journey to the afterlife to discuss immortality. The story of Atlantis, allegorists argue, is another such myth designed to illustrate Plato's ideas about ideal societies and the dangers of hubris. Plato's description of Atlantis as a powerful, corrupt civilization that is destroyed by the gods serves as a warning to the Athenians and to all humans about the consequences of pride and moral decay. The fact that Atlantis is described as a naval empire that attempts to conquer Athens is particularly significant, as it reflects Plato's concerns about the rise of Athens as a naval power in his own time. By setting the story 9,000 years in the past, Plato is able to create a timeless parable that transcends specific historical events. Allegorists also point out that there is no credible historical or archaeological evidence to support the existence of Atlantis. Despite centuries of searching, no ruins, artifacts, or other physical evidence of a civilization matching Plato's description have been found. The ancient Egyptians, who were supposed to have recorded the story of Atlantis, have no surviving records of such a civilization. The ancient Greeks, who were meticulous record keepers, also have no other accounts of Atlantis, save for those based on Plato's dialogues. Additionally, Plato's description of Atlantis contains several inconsistencies and implausibilities. For example, he describes Atlantis as a large island, larger than Libya and Asia put together, a landmass that would be larger than modern-day Europe. Yet, there is no geological evidence that such a landmass ever existed in the Atlantic Ocean. He also describes the Atlanteans as having advanced technology, including metalworking and complex engineering. But the earliest evidence of such technology dates back only to around 4,000 BCE, thousands of years after Plato's proposed date for Atlantis's destruction. These inconsistencies suggest that Plato's story was not based on historical fact, but rather on his imagination. Another key argument in support of the allegorist perspective is the context in which Plato wrote his dialogues. During Plato's lifetime, Athens was a powerful city-state, but it had recently suffered a devastating defeat in the Peloponnesian War, 431–404 BCE, which had left the city weakened and divided. Plato was deeply critical of Athens's government and society, which he saw as corrupt and unjust. The story of Atlantis, allegorists argue, is a critique of Athens itself. The Atlanteans' hubris and corruption mirror the flaws that Plato saw in his own society, and their destruction serves as a warning of what could happen to Athens if it did not reform. Additionally, Plato's description of Athens as a just, virtuous city that defeats the powerful Atlanteans reflects his ideal vision of a perfect society, one that is governed by reason and virtue, rather than power and greed. In this sense, Atlantis is not a real place, but a symbol of everything that Plato believed was wrong with human civilization, and Athens in particular, despite the strong arguments in support of the allegorist perspective. Many people continue to believe that Atlantis was a real place. This belief is fueled by a variety of factors, including the specificity of Plato's description, the prevalence of flood myths in many cultures, and the human fascination with lost civilizations. For many, the idea of an advanced civilization that was destroyed by a catastrophic natural disaster is both compelling and terrifying. It speaks to our own fears of climate change, natural disasters, and the fragility of human achievement. Additionally, the discovery of ancient civilizations that were once thought to be mythical, such as the city of Troy, which was long considered a fictional city until it was discovered by archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann in the 19th century, has given hope to those who believe that Atlantis may one day be found. If Troy, which was mentioned in Homer's Iliad, was real, why not Atlantis? The discovery of Troy is often cited by historicists as evidence that Atlantis could be real. Schliemann, who was inspired by Homer's epic poem, spent years searching for Troy and eventually found its ruins in modern-day Turkey. His discovery proved that ancient myths could have a basis in historical fact, and it sparked a renewed interest in the search for Atlantis. However, there is a key difference between Troy and Atlantis. The Iliad is an epic poem, not a philosophical dialogue, and it contains specific historical details that could be verified. Plato's dialogues, on the other hand, are explicitly philosophical, and they use fictional stories to make abstract points. Additionally, the ruins of Troy were found in a location that matched Homer's description, and they contained artifacts that confirmed the existence of a powerful city-state. No such evidence has been found for Atlantis. Another factor that fuels belief in Atlantis is the prevalence of flood myths in many cultures around the world. From the biblical story of Noah's Ark to the Sumerian flood myth of Utnapishtim, from the Hindu story of Manu to the Native American flood myths, many ancient cultures have stories of a great flood that destroyed an advanced civilization. Historicists argue that these myths are not mere coincidences, but rather memories of a real global flood that destroyed Atlantis, a civilization that was the cradle of human culture. They point to geological evidence that suggests there was a period of global flooding at the end of the Ice Age, around 10,000 BCE, when sea levels rose by more than 100 meters, submerging large areas of land. This flooding, they argue, could have destroyed Atlantis and other coastal civilizations, and the stories of these disasters were passed down through oral traditions, eventually becoming the flood myths we know today. However, Mainstream geologists argue that the rise in sea levels at the end of the Ice Age was a gradual process, taking place over thousands of years, not a sudden cataclysm that submerged a continent in a single day and night, as Plato described. Additionally, the flood myths from different cultures are often very different from each other, suggesting that they were inspired by local floods, not a single global disaster. To further complicate the debate, there is evidence that Plato may have drawn inspiration from real historical events and civilizations when crafting his story of Atlantis. For example, the destruction of the city of Healing in 373 BCE, just a few decades before Plato wrote his dialogues, may have influenced his description of Atlantis's destruction. Healing was a powerful Greek city-state located on the coast of the Gulf of Corinth, and it was destroyed by a catastrophic earthquake and flood that submerged the city in a single day and night. The story of Healing's destruction was widely known in ancient Greece, and it is possible that Plato used it as a model for Atlantis's fate. Additionally, the Minoan civilization's destruction by the Santorini eruption, which we discussed earlier, may have been another source of inspiration. Plato may have combined elements of these real disasters with his own philosophical ideas to create the story of Atlantis, a blend of fact and fiction that has captivated audiences for millennia. Regardless of whether Atlantis was real or fictional, its impact on human culture has been profound. The legend of Atlantis has inspired countless works of literature, art, music, and film, and it has shaped our understanding of lost civilizations and the fragility of human achievement. From Francis Bacon's New Atlantis to Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, from Disney's Atlantis, The Lost Empire to the works of H.P. Lovecraft, Atlantis has been a recurring theme in popular culture. It has also inspired scientific research, with geologists, archaeologists, and oceanographers continuing to search for evidence of the lost city. Even today, new theories about Atlantis's location and nature emerge regularly, and the debate over its existence shows no signs of slowing down. In literature, Atlantis has been portrayed in a variety of ways, sometimes as a utopian civilization of peace and prosperity, sometimes as a dystopian society of corruption and hubris, and sometimes as a mysterious, magical place filled with hidden treasures and ancient secrets. Francis Bacon's New Atlantis, written in 1627, depicts a utopian island civilization where science and reason flourish, and where the inhabitants have achieved technological advancements far beyond those of Bacon's time. Bacon's work was inspired by Plato's Atlantis, but it reimagines the lost city as a model for a perfect society, one that is governed by wisdom and virtue. Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, published in 1870, features Captain Nemo, a mysterious figure who claims to be from Atlantis and who uses the lost city's technology to build his advanced submarine, the Nautilus. Verne's portrayal of Atlantis as a source of advanced technology has influenced countless later works of science fiction, including films, television shows, and video games. In art and architecture, Atlantis has been depicted as a grand, exotic city with elaborate palaces, temples, and canals. Renaissance artists often included Atlantis in their paintings and murals, depicting it as a utopian paradise. In the 20th century, artists such as Salvador Dali and Max Ernst used Atlantis as a symbol of mystery and transcendence, incorporating images of the lost city into their surrealist works. In architecture, the influence of Atlantis can be seen in the design of buildings, such as the Atlantis Resort in the Bahamas, which features elaborate waterways, pools, and tropical gardens, echoing Plato's description of Atlantis's concentric rings of water and land. The resort's design is a testament to the enduring appeal of the Atlantis myth, and it attracts millions of visitors each year who come to experience the magic of the lost city. In science and exploration, the legend of Atlantis has inspired countless expeditions and research projects. In recent years, advances in technology such as underwater robotics, satellite imaging, and sonar have made it possible to explore the world's oceans in ways that were previously impossible. These technologies have been used to search for underwater ruins that could be Atlantis, and they have uncovered a number of fascinating discoveries. For example, in 2011, a team of marine archaeologists using sonar technology discovered a series of underwater structures off the coast of Cuba, including what appeared to be roads, buildings, and pyramids. The structures, which are located about 600 meters underwater, date back to around 10,000 BCE, matching Plato's date for Atlantis's destruction. Some Atlantis enthusiasts claimed that these structures were the remains of Atlantis, but subsequent studies revealed that they were natural formations created by the erosion of limestone. Despite this, the discovery sparked renewed interest in the search for Atlantis, and it demonstrated the potential of modern technology to uncover hidden secrets of the ocean. Another recent development in the search for Atlantis is the use of satellite imaging to identify potential sites. In 2012, a team of researchers from the University of Hartford used satellite images to identify a series of rectangular structures in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Spain, which they claimed were the remains of Atlantis. The structures, which are located about 1.5 kilometers offshore, appear to be man-made, and they match Plato's description of Atlantis's layout. However, the team's findings have been met with skepticism by mainstream scientists who argue that the structures are likely natural formations or the remains of modern fishing nets or other debris. Despite this, the use of satellite imaging has opened up new possibilities for the search for Atlantis, and it is likely that future expeditions will use this technology to explore other potential sites. While the search for Atlantis has not yet yielded definitive evidence, of the lost city's existence. It has led to important discoveries about the Earth's history and ancient civilizations. For example, the study of the Santorini eruption has provided valuable insights into the impact of volcanic eruptions on ancient societies, and the discovery of underwater ruins off the coast of Cyprus and other locations has shed light on how sea level changes have affected human settlements throughout history. Additionally, the debate over Atlantis has sparked important discussions about the nature of myth and legend and how they can shape our understanding of the past. Whether Atlantis was real or fictional, it has inspired us to explore the unknown, to question our assumptions about history, and to imagine the possibilities of lost civilizations. As we look to the future, the search for Atlantis will likely continue, driven by advances in technology and the enduring human fascination with the unknown. New archaeological expeditions, new geological studies, and new technological innovations will continue to shed light on the mystery of Atlantis. And it is possible that one day we may find evidence that confirms its existence. However, even if Atlantis is never found, its legacy will continue to inspire us. The story of Atlantis is more than just a myth. It is a reminder of the fragility of human civilization, the power of nature, and the importance of humility. It teaches us that no matter how advanced a civilization may be, it is vulnerable to the forces of nature and the consequences of its own hubris. It also reminds us of the importance of preserving our planet and our cultural heritage, so that we do not become a lost civilization ourselves. Conclusion: the lost city of Atlantis remains one of the most enduring mysteries of human history. For over 2,400 years, it has captivated our imagination, inspiring myths, legends, scientific inquiries, and works of art. While the debate over its existence rages on, with historicists arguing that it was a real civilization and allegorists claiming it was a philosophical metaphor, one thing is clear: Atlantis has left an indelible mark on human culture. Whether it was a real place or a fictional invention, the story of Atlantis speaks to our deepest fears and aspirations. It reminds us of the power of nature, the fragility of human achievement, and the enduring appeal of the unknown. As we continue to explore the world's oceans and uncover the secrets of the past, we may one day solve the mystery of Atlantis. But until then, it will remain a symbol of the endless possibilities of human imagination and a testament to the power of a good story to transcend time and culture. To further explore the mystery of Atlantis, it is essential to examine the latest scientific research and archaeological discoveries that have emerged in recent years. One of the most significant developments is the use of muon radiography, a technique that uses subatomic particles called muons to detect hidden structures beneath the Earth's surface or underwater. This technology has been used to explore ancient pyramids and other structures, and it has the potential to uncover hidden underwater ruins that could be Atlantis. In 2023, A team of researchers from the University of Cambridge used muon radiography to scan the seabed off the coast of the Azores, looking for evidence of submerged structures. While the team did not find any definitive evidence of Atlantis, they did discover a series of unusual geological formations that could be the remains of an ancient island. This research is ongoing, and it is possible that future scans will reveal more clues about the region's history. Another recent development is the study of ancient DNA, which has provided new insights into the migration patterns of ancient civilizations. Some researchers have suggested that if Atlantis was a real civilization, it may have been home to a unique population whose DNA could be traced to modern-day groups. For example, if Atlantis was located in the Atlantic Ocean, its inhabitants may have migrated to the Americas or Europe after the city's destruction, leaving traces of their DNA in modern populations. While no such DNA evidence has been found yet, advances in DNA sequencing technology may make it possible to identify such traces in the future. Additionally, the study of ancient pollen and sediment samples from the Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean Sea has provided valuable insights into past climate conditions and vegetation, which could help to confirm whether a large island like Atlantis ever existed. The role of oral traditions in preserving the memory of Atlantis is another area of ongoing research. Many ancient cultures have oral traditions that describe lost civilizations and catastrophic floods, and some researchers believe that these traditions may contain memories of Atlantis. For example, the indigenous peoples of the Caribbean and Central America have stories of a great flood that destroyed a powerful civilization, and some of these stories bear striking similarities to Plato's description of Atlantis. By studying these oral traditions and comparing them to Plato's account, researchers hope to gain new insights into the origins of the Atlantis myth. Additionally, the study of ancient languages has revealed similarities between words used to describe lost civilizations in different cultures, which some researchers interpret as evidence of a common origin, possibly Atlantis. Despite these advances, the mystery of Atlantis remains unsolved. The lack of definitive evidence has led many scholars to conclude that Atlantis never existed, and that Plato's story was purely a philosophical allegory. However, the enduring popularity of the Atlantis myth suggests that it taps into something deep within the human psyche, a fascination with lost civilizations, a fear of natural disasters, and a hope that there is more to our history than we currently know. Whether Atlantis was real or fictional, it will continue to inspire us to explore the unknown, to question our assumptions, and to imagine the possibilities of a world that once was and may one day be found. In the end, the story of Atlantis is more than just a mystery. It is a reflection of our own humanity. It reminds us that we are all part of a larger history and that our civilizations, no matter how advanced, are fragile. It challenges us to be humble in the face of nature's power and to value the virtues of justice, wisdom, and compassion. And it inspires us to keep searching, to keep exploring the depths of the ocean, the pages of ancient texts, and the recesses of our imagination for the truth about our past. The lost city of Atlantis may be vanished, but its legacy will live on, captivating and inspiring generations to come. To delve deeper into the cultural impact of Atlantis, it is important to examine its role in modern popular culture. In recent decades, Atlantis has been featured in countless films, television shows, video games, and books, each offering a unique interpretation of the lost city. For example, Disney's 2001 animated film Atlantis. The Lost Empire portrays Atlantis as a magical, advanced civilization with a rich cultural heritage, whose inhabitants possess the power to control the elements. The film follows a young linguist who leads an expedition to find Atlantis, and it explores themes of cultural preservation, friendship, and the importance of respecting other civilizations. The film was a commercial success, and it helped to introduce the Atlantis myth to a new generation of audiences. In television, Atlantis has been featured in shows such as Stargate. Atlantis, a science fiction series that portrays Atlantis as an ancient alien city located in the Pegasus Galaxy. The show follows a team of scientists and soldiers who discover the city and must defend it from alien threats, while also uncovering its secrets. Stargate. Atlantis was popular for its blend of science fiction, adventure, and mystery, and it ran for 5 seasons, spawning several spin-offs and films. Another popular television show that features Atlantis is Atlantis, a British fantasy series that reimagines the lost city as a magical realm filled with mythical creatures and ancient gods. The show follows a young man who is transported to Atlantis and must navigate its dangers while uncovering his own destiny. In video games, Atlantis has been the setting for numerous titles, including Assassin's Creed, Odyssey, which allows players to explore a fictional version of Atlantis as part of the game's downloadable content. The game portrays Atlantis as a beautiful, advanced civilization with a complex history and powerful artifacts, and it allows players to interact with historical figures and mythical creatures. Other video games that feature Atlantis include Prince of Persia, The Forgotten Sands, Final Fantasy XII, and BioShock Infinite, each offering a unique take on the lost city. These games allow players to immerse themselves in the world of Atlantis, exploring its ruins, solving puzzles, and uncovering its secrets, further fueling the fascination with the lost city. The influence of Atlantis can also be seen in popular music, with many artists referencing the lost city in their lyrics. For example, the band Led Zeppelin included a song called Atlantis on their 1969 album, Led Zeppelin II. which tells the story of the lost city and its destruction. The song's lyrics capture the mystery and tragedy of Atlantis, and it has become a fan favorite. Other artists who have referenced Atlantis in their music include David Bowie, Fleetwood Mac, and Enya, each using the myth of Atlantis to explore themes of loss, longing, and transcendence. Beyond popular culture, the legend of Atlantis has also influenced scientific and philosophical thought. For example, the idea of an advanced lost civilization has inspired scientists to search for evidence of ancient technological advancements that may have been lost to time. Some researchers have suggested that the Atlanteans may have had knowledge of electricity, flight, or even quantum physics, ideas that are often dismissed as pseudoscience, but continue to capture the imagination. Philosophically, the story of Atlantis has been used to explore themes of utopia and dystopia, and to question the nature of progress and civilization. It has also been used to discuss the importance of environmental stewardship, as the destruction of Atlantis is often attributed to the Atlanteans' abuse of their environment. A cautionary tale for modern society. In recent years, the debate over Atlantis has become more heated, with new theories and evidence emerging regularly. One of the most controversial new theories is that Atlantis was located in the Bermuda Triangle, a region in the Atlantic Ocean, known for its mysterious disappearances of ships and planes. Proponents of this theory argue that the Bermuda Triangle's unusual weather patterns and magnetic anomalies are the result of the remains of Atlantis's advanced technology, which is still active beneath the sea. However, mainstream scientists dismiss this theory, noting that the Bermuda Triangle's reputation for mysterious disappearances is largely exaggerated, and that there is no evidence to support the claim that it is the site of Atlantis. Another new theory is that Atlantis was a colony of extraterrestrial beings who built the city as a base on Earth before abandoning it or being destroyed by a natural disaster. This theory, which is popular among conspiracy theorists, is supported by claims of ancient alien artifacts and rock carvings that are said to depict extraterrestrial beings. However, there is no scientific evidence to support this theory, and it is widely dismissed by mainstream scholars. Despite the lack of evidence for these fringe theories, the search for Atlantis continues to captivate people around the world. For many, the idea of a lost civilization is too compelling to ignore, and they remain hopeful that one day evidence of Atlantis will be found. Whether this evidence is a submerged city, an ancient artifact, or a geological formation, it would revolutionize our understanding of human history and our place in the world. Until then, the legend of Atlantis will continue to inspire us, challenge us, and remind us of the endless possibilities of the unknown. In the final analysis, the mystery of Atlantis is not just about whether a lost city existed. It is about our human need to explore, to imagine, and to seek meaning in the unknown. It is about the stories we tell ourselves to make sense of our past, our present, and our future. Whether Atlantis was a real civilization or a fictional allegory, it has become a part of our collective consciousness, a symbol of hope, mystery, and the enduring power of the human imagination. As we continue to explore the world around us and uncover the secrets of our past, we may one day solve the mystery of Atlantis. But even if we don't, the story of the lost city of Atlantis will continue to live on, inspiring generations to come to dream, to explore, and to never stop searching for the truth.